how does a defined benefit pension fit into a retirement income plan?
It's common for people to just be stuck in the default option, but that might not be best for you.
Would you say there's more responsibility on the employee? It sounds fairly obvious.
No guaranteed payout, just guaranteed contributions. The risk lies with you. Hello and welcome to another episode of Your Retirement Planning Simplified. I am Joe Curry, along with my co-host as always, Lindsay Wilson. How's it going today, Lindsay?
Good. Trying to survive the cold.
Yeah, it's really cold.
Well, today we are going to look at or explore understanding pension types for Canadian employees. So it's a topic that affects nearly every Canadian employee at some point, and we do get questions about it from listeners. It's pensions, right? So specifically, we'll cover the different types of pensions available: defined benefit, defined contribution, and group RRSPs. Plus, we'll look at how these pensions contribute to your retirement income plan. So, Joe, I'll get you to sort of kick everything off and explain to us how to break it all down.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, Lindsay. So this is a really important topic because in some shape or form, one of these, scenarios we'll talk about today affect most Canadian employees. So, I think it's definitely worth diving into.
So I say we start with defined benefit pensions. Can you explain what they are and how they work?
Sure. So defined benefit pensions, this is becoming more and more rare, right? Usually nowadays we see this just with really large companies or government organizations that really have the defined benefit pension. So we're talking also like teacher's pension, which is kind of like the gold standard, I think, for a lot of people. Like that's your defined benefit pension, right? So if we dive into what that actually looks like, a defined benefit pension, it's a type of retirement plan where the employer promises a specific payout in retirement. So the amount you receive, it's usually based on factors like your salary, years of service, and there's some kind of a fixed formula there, right? So it could be a percentage times number of years of service times average of your best 5 years of earnings, as an example. Right. So contributing to the pension. So typically both the employer and the employee contribute to the plan, though in some cases it's not required for the employee. It might just be the employer. But the pension fund is managed by a trustee, and the growth of the fund does not affect you directly or your payout directly. So it's a guaranteed benefit to you when you get to retirement. So in other words, what's happening here is the risk isn't with you and your investment decisions. The risk is lying with the employer. And so that's why people love the defined benefit pension plan, right? So when you retire, you'll receive regular payments for life. Often, but not always, but often these are actually indexed with inflation or some percentage of inflation. They also typically include a spousal survivor benefit. So in other words, what we would typically see is something like if you're the pensioner and you're earning, the full pension, and something happens to you before your surviving spouse would receive not the full benefit, but they'd still get the pension. So it might be 60% or 67% of the original pension amount. Defined pensions are great because really what they're doing is they offer predictability to create a solid foundation for your retirement income plan. Now, we've talked about different income styles or retirement income styles in the past, Lindsay. We mention it all the time, the RISA, Retirement Income Style Assessment, right? So the defined benefit pension typically fills the income protection tool, I guess, for those who have that income protection income style. Saying income a lot there. So where someone with no defined benefit who has an income protection retirement income style, they may need to take some personal savings in order to buy something like an annuity to create that guaranteed income that gives them the confidence to spend in retirement. But if you're lucky enough to have the defined benefit pension, it could very much fill that role and be that tool to allow you to take on some more risk or have more flexibility with your spending in retirement.
So how does a defined benefit pension fit into a retirement income plan?
Yeah, so I guess I got a little bit ahead of myself there. But as I said, it can provide that income protection piece of the plan. And because the income is reliable, it typically lasts for life. It often goes up with inflation. You might be lucky enough if you have a defined benefit plan that it covers your essential expenses like your housing costs, your groceries, your healthcare, which is, as I mentioned a minute ago, it allows you to have more flexibility with your other retirement savings. It allows you maybe to take on a bit more risk if you need it in the portfolio. Again, so there could be some more opportunity for other spending in the future.
So let's move on to defined contribution pensions. How are they different from defined benefit plans?
Yeah, so this is the other primary pension plan, and it's more like personal retirement savings or an RSP. So typically, both you and your employer contribute a set amount, usually a percentage of your salary, into the account in your name. Now, they may contribute a percentage of your income regardless of whether you match it or not, and then they may also match a percentage that you put in beyond that. So there's different ways it could be set up, but the employer is going to be putting some amount into this pension plan. And the key difference here between the DB or defined benefit and the DC or defined contribution pension is that the eventual payout on the defined contribution plan is not guaranteed. Instead, it depends on how much you and your employer have contributed over the years, and then how your investments in that defined contribution plan perform over time. So you're responsible for making the decisions, and you might be able to choose from the options provided by the plan, but ultimately that risk lies with you. So when you retire, the account balance, it could be used to buy a guaranteed income stream, but it's going to be based on the amount that you have in the account, right? It's not based on any formula that you had set up when you joined the plan. It's just based on, okay, this is how much is in there when you go to retire. So you could take that, you could buy an annuity, you could still get that guaranteed income, but that's not typically what we see. What we would normally see is retirees, when they retire, they take that amount, they move it over to a personal investment account. So that's typically going to be a LIRA, a locked-in retirement account. And then it's going to be invested just like an RSP or a tax-free savings account. So again, no guaranteed payout, just guaranteed contributions. The risk then lies with you.
Mm-hmm. And so would you say there's more responsibility on the employee? It sounds fairly obvious that there would be more responsibility on the employee with a defined contribution pension.
Yeah, so 100%. That's exactly what's happening. And that's why we see less and less defined benefit plans right now, because there is a lot of responsibility and risk that lies with the employer. And so this is a way where they can basically fulfill the promise by making contributions to the defined contribution plan. And then they can kind of, I guess, wipe their hands clean of any requirements beyond that, because at that point it's in the hands of the employee. So it is very crucial to not take the defined contribution plan investments too lightly. It's common for people to just be stuck in the default option. So they're signed up for the plan, they're in the default investment option, but that might not be best for you. You want to make sure that you are intentional about choosing the best option for you based on your risk tolerance, your goals, your time horizon, all those things. So don't just leave it to the default. That responsibility, as you said, Lindsay, does rely with the employee. So they need to take responsibility to make the most of it.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's worthwhile looking at our final group, or our group RRSPs. How do they fit into the picture?
Yeah, so a group RSP is an employer-sponsored retirement savings plan. And so, but it's made up of RSPs as opposed to like a registered pension plan. But in a lot of ways, it is similar to the defined contribution or DC pension plan. So you contribute to your own RSP through the group RSP option, and you do it through payroll deductions. And then sometimes, if you're lucky, also your employer will match a portion of your contributions. So typically up to the max RSP contribution, 18% of your salary. You can go above and beyond whatever your employer is going to match, but they'll typically match a certain amount based on how long you've been working with the company. Now, one of the benefits of contributing through payroll deductions rather than contributing to just a personal RSP is that you're putting the before tax dollars into the account. So if it's personally, you would get paid your income, you have to pay tax on that. So now you don't have as much left to invest. You can take a portion of what's left over after you've done all your spending, you put it to your RSP, you get the tax deduction, but then you have to wait until you've done your taxes to get your refund for taxes, right? So this way, you're just getting the full before tax amount going right into the plan and getting invested right away. The other good thing about that, and I know depending on the person, this might not be a bonus, but rather than having to wait for a tax refund, again, it's all invested. So you don't have the responsibility what would be ideal, the perfect world where you get your tax refund and then you go and put it into the RSP. This way, it's all in there. You don't have to think about it. So it's kind of back to some investment, I guess, 101, where you just pay yourself first is one of the most important things, right? And you're able to do that because it's never gone to your bank account in the first place. So the big difference here with group RSPs is they don't have necessarily the same rules or guarantees as pensions. So for example, there's no requirement to use those funds for retirement. And so what I mean by that, if we look at a DC or a defined contribution plan, that money, if you take it out of the plan, will go typically into a locked-in retirement account. And there's minimums and maximums for how much you can withdraw, right? And the idea there is that you don't take it all out, spend it all at once, but it'll be coming out on a more predictable amount throughout your retirement. So even though you can take the money out of your RSP, group RSP, it's just like any other RSP. If you do take the money out of there, you need to know that you're going to pay tax on that money, right? So like DC pensions, the funds grow based on your investment performance. So again, you want to be intentional about how you're choosing those investments, right? And because this should play a big part of your retirement income plan in the future. And ultimately, you'll decide how you turn that into an income, which again comes back to planning in the future when you retire.
So I think it's probably worthwhile at this point just to compare the three. So between them, defined benefit pension, defined contribution pension, and group RRSPs, how should someone think about their overall retirement plan?
Yeah. So, I mean, the first thing is, and this episode is a great start, is you really want to understand what plan you have and what each of these plans offer, and again, how they all fit together into your larger plan. So the defined benefit pension provides that predictable guaranteed income, which can serve as your financial foundation, that income protection piece that we mentioned earlier. Defined contribution pensions or RSPs, on the other hand, like they're great for building additional retirement savings, adding flexibility to your retirement. So there are some advantages to having the risk with you, is that you have a lot more flexibility in how you spend that money, right? Now, at the end of the day, though, you don't have much say in what plan you get. So the key is to look at your total financial picture, consider how much guaranteed income you're going to have in retirement, and then build a plan to fill in the gaps with your other personal savings. So again, it's really just understanding what you have and how it fits into a larger plan.
Any final thoughts or actions for our listeners?
No, I think I kind of summed it up there. Again, the first thing, just understand what you have. You want to make sure, so maybe just going a little bit further on that, Lindsay, like you want to make sure not just you understand that I have a defined benefit or a defined contribution plan. If you have a defined benefit, there's not much you can do. But if you have a defined contribution plan, you want to talk to HR or whoever looks after that plan for your company. And you want to make sure you understand like what are the matching benefits, right? You don't want to leave money on the table for the group RSPs and defined contribution plans. Ideally, you're going to get the max contribution. So make sure you're not missing out on those. And then as you approach retirement, again, it just comes back to planning and figuring out where this all fits in.
Okay. That's great, Jill. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Lindsay.